Hey folks, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk Whiskey. I'm Nick here with you as always, and thanks for joining us for episode number 94. So, today being the day after Christmas, I thought for this review I'd splurge a little bit, since we all like to empty a little bit more of our wallet contents around this time of year than other times, for most of us. So, we're going to head to the Irish whiskey side of the whiskey world. And so what I've got for you is the Bushmills 21-year-old. So, comes in a really nice box here. When I got this, since people are always interested in what people are paying in their areas, I got this for $95 about a year and a half ago, which was an absolute steal. It was just tucked away there in the back, sort of dark, it's a darker colored box. I don't even think it was on a top shelf. I think it was hidden on a bottom shelf, down here, and I was like, thought I was seeing things at the time. But anyway, I picked this up, and it's a really nice packaging. Sometimes the branding and the packaging is a little bit too much, and it's a little extravagant for the money that you're buying. But in the case of this, it's just really nice. I think it's, classy, it's reserved. And so you've got the traditional logo and everything like that. I don't need to go into that. But on the inside, it's really nice too. So you've got the bottle held in there pretty nicely. They've got this little fabric tab that you can get to pull it out. It's got a little bit of the story that you'd find on most any whiskey cardboard box or tin or something like that. It just gives you a little history behind it and a little bit about the bottle itself. So we'll take that out. Yes, I've had some already. I like to taste a little bit before I go and review things for you. But let's just talk about this. So obviously 21 years old. It spends 19 of those years aging in Oloroso sherry and ex-bourbon barrels, and then spends an additional 2 years in Madeira. So, what else do we got going on here? Well, the thing I was surprised with is this is bottled at 40% ABV. I was expecting something a little bit higher. I wasn't expecting much because I know that it's at a 21-year-old. The stocks are not in such vast supply as their other expressions might be. So a little bit surprised at that, but 40%, it's alright, and after tasting it, it's not an issue at all. But anyway, just pretty standard in terms of the Bushmill bottling type, that sort of thing. The only thing that is different, and I don't know if it's actually on this bottle. Probably should have looked at that first, but I thought that I had read somewhere that it said it was individually numbered. Triple distilled, individually numbered bottle, matured in 3 woods, which we already talked about. So where that bottle number is, not quite sure because I don't at first glance. Oh, duh, I'm sort of dumb. So we've got 9,545, and this is the 2015 when it was bottled. So there you go. They got a few thousand of those out there. So anyway, let's pour a little bit of it, see how it is. Hope y'all are enjoying the new setup. I try to add a little bit here because in the new location I realize it's not as involved or visually appealing as the location that I was at before. So I try to spruce it up a little bit there. So there you go. So we are reviewing out of a Capita nosing glass. If you're interested in exactly what this type of glass is, I've had it out before. It's from the folks at Glencairn. I absolutely love their glassware, and specifically this glass. I like to put the, a little bit more special, definitely the older whiskeys I like to put in there. Not so much bourbons, just because they pack such a big flavor punch that there's a lot that needs opening up there. So I don't tend to put bourbons in this type of glass, but I will put Irish whiskey, older Scotch whiskeys, and that sort of thing in there. So one of the big things you'll notice is that when you roll it around in the glass, you know, sometimes I talk about the legs, and if you're a wine connoisseur, if you gone to a wine tasting or listened to somebody who's an aficionado of wine, you'll notice they talk about the legs. And on this, they are, man, if you roll that glass in there, it's almost like a glue or a paste, because they do not move much at all. It's such a slow trickle. It's like wax going down the bottle, which is interesting, just indicative of that age. And there's even some tiny little, you see little particles in there, not too much, but that's always interesting to see. So anyway, let's go in for the nose. First thing that's coming off is just beautiful, soft, malted barley notes, sugary, buttery, biscuity, definitely fresh baked bread notes in there, bakery at 5 a.m., that sort of sense that you get in there. Even some subtle hint of berries. I'm getting some blueberry and strawberry in there, just subtle, not overly stated. Really interesting. Not an overt sweetness to it, but these really perfumey bakery notes, that sweet malted barley, but not sweet as in sugary or, you know, those types of fruits. Just that subtle hint of berries. And even the slightest hint of honey, a little bit of vanilla in there. So let's go in for the taste. Now this is one that you need to take some time with to unbox, if you will. And the first thing that you might do if you grab a bottle of this and you taste it is you might kick yourself for not buying another bottle, because for the price, you know, that is a big factor in this. But what is in this glass is just absolutely phenomenal. The first thing that envelops is that soft berry vanillas that I was getting in on the nose, but when it opens up a little bit as you taste it, it just increases in the amount of flavor that you get. And it's interesting because most times you get really punchy, you know, headlines of these different tasting notes, and then they subtly go off into the finish, and you evaluate how long, you know, the finish will be, or that sort of thing. But in this, it increases, it comes to a head. It's almost like you're driving uphill, you know, to the peak, and then you're going down, not starting out, oh, I've tasted it, here's all the flavors, and now we go down to the finish. But this is sort of an uphill climb, opens up, and then goes down, which I just thought, when I first tasted that, I got the same idea in there as well, which I thought was really interesting, because I've never, in the sort of short-term memory that I have, recall a whiskey that had that type of development to it, which I just found phenomenal. There's also a sugariness to the taste that wasn't there on the nose. It's almost a maple syrupy. I mean, when you taste it, the mouthfeel of this is definitely reminiscent of something like a Redbreast or Powers John's Lane. Not as thick as that, but definitely a very syrupy texture and mouthfeel to it, which just enhances the whole experience. But there's just everything that you could want from Bushmills. If you got, 500 people who were connoisseurs of, Bushmills or Irish whiskeys in general and could really discern what would make the perfect tasting Irish whiskey, I mean, I think they would come pretty close to something like this. Everything is there, from these bakery notes that I was talking about to the fruits transitioning to something more sugary, syrupy, but then underlying that is a little bit of this pepperiness to it that is there only for a brief moment. It's not there long, but it's right in the middle of the whole experience. Just a little peppery note, a little bit of earthy, grassy notes comes in on the end. So you're really getting a full range of taste and profile experiences with this whiskey, which is just phenomenal. And to leave it out in a glass a little bit to add water to it, I haven't done that yet. I wasn't looking to do that for this review in particular, just because with this I want to savor it as long as I can, but it would be interesting to see what maybe just a drop at a time really does, because this is something that you don't want to ruin because it's at such a good point where it is. But this is worth experimenting with. So talking about the finish, there's definitely a little bit of that pepperiness that coats the edges of the tongue and gives it a really almost like peppercorn type of spiciness to it. Red pepper, which is interesting. And that leads into a relatively short finish. It's not there that long. When it's there, it's really flavorful and all that jazz, but when it leaves, man, it leaves, and it keeps you coming back for more, which I will. I mean, what more is there to say? It's an excellent whiskey that, if you can find it, keep your eyes out there. There are some whiskeys like this out there that just nobody picks up because for whatever reason, when it was first put there on the shelf, maybe it was a really exorbitantly high, price tag on it, and they may have knocked it down and, put it to the side, put some other things in its place and forgot about it. And, somebody comes along like I did and finds it, picks it up, and gets to enjoy it, So definitely keep a lookout for that. For a score, man, it's hard to score something like this. Being a 21-year-old Irish whiskey, you have to pit it up against something like Redbreast or some older Irish whiskeys, which I haven't been able to try yet. So I would say, for what it is based on the competition really that's out there in its category, I would go straight up, 95 with this. And the only reason that I'm keeping the score relatively low, some might think, for what I've said about it, is in the finish. And I think a lot of that has to do with the proof. It's spent a lot of time in oak, which, soaks up a lot of flavor from the wood, but at a given point, man, doesn't have as much to give. So, for what it is, it's excellent, beautiful, all the things that I said about it, but the finish is a little bit short, and I wish the proof were a little bit higher. Even 43, I would, feel like I got a great deal walking away, and I feel like I got a pretty good deal. But, so, that's it for this week's whiskey review. I don't think we'll be seeing you until the new year. So, if you're going to drink and ring in the new year, I hope you do it responsibly. Hope you enjoy yourselves. And until next time, see you later.